Good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, or good evening, or good night. This is Jen at Jen's Arty Inclinations, a place to create, share and play.
It's that time again, #PPG Choose 6 Challenge. So there's my packaging, moulding paste I'm going to use as the texture paste. Then I realised that I hadn't grabbed a calendar, but I have this little date book and the pages are a little bit aged, so I thought I'd use that for calendar. And then the waterfall, I'm actually using the pages as just a really super simple waterfall. I was going to do a pop-up one, but I went for that. Then I've got my stamps and I'm using some stamping as well. And the flag, I did this recently and I thought, yeah, I'll do an actual little flag kind of thing. I just think it's a bit cute. Alrighty, so the first thing I want to do is I want to use the tab for my actual texture paste. So I decided that I'd use some black gesso just to give it a bit of a base rather than the stark white, give it a bit of contrast. So there's my black gesso that I'm using. And I've got this lovely new spatula that I found while I was out shopping in a kitchen section. And I love the kitchen section for tools. So as you can see, I just wanted a really nice thin coat. I didn't want it black. I wanted it to have a bit of a texture feel. And black gesso is so easy to clean up. And then I discovered that when I went over with my wipe, it gave it an even more mottlety kind of effect. So I'm going to do that again, that's for sure. So then I went away and I just dried that quickly. And now I'm just cutting down the piece for the front. So this is just a nice piece of scrapbook paper. It's got a bit of texture. It's almost got a little bit of gloss to it, but the texture kind of takes away from that because I tend to like matte things more, but I love blues, so it works well. All right, that is what I'm using for my moulding paste. And this is one of those stencils that actually has a bit of a sticky back. I like those. They really hold in place. So they're fantastic when you're doing something like this where you really need it to stick together. I didn't have my tape handy, so I just used some glue to create my mask with the paper around it. You really should use masking tape, but it worked, so that's fine. Now, this is how I use my moulding paste. I think it was Pam at the Paper Outpost that I first saw this technique on. So grabbing your stencil and you literally just spreading the moulding paste over that. I'm not terrific at doing it yet. I love the result. Like, I can't believe how simple it is. It feels a bit special, and it doesn't add too much bulk inside, but it adds some texture. I adore this effect. It is so much fun. So this stamp, it's just a plain little, handwritten text kind of stamp. So I just use that over the background. I haven't even put it on an acrylic block. I've just let it kind of rest. I wanted that unevenness. I wanted that dark in some places, light in others. And then I'm discovering that this little check block, which is simply from one of those kits that you sometimes pick up in $2 shops. And this one, it was from one of those, journaling little stamp kits. I kind of just love that little addition in the background. I like the effect. Worked really well. So now I'm just working out the little front cover that's going to have that little pocket tuck on it, because I'm basing it on the folded book page that I had with my little flag before. And then I thought the waterfall could peek out on the side of this one, so we'll see how that goes. So I trimmed that down so it would match my cover nicely. Then I used washi on the edge, so that just means that it's kind of covered all of that packaging. Nobody's going to see it. I didn't have to wrap the paper around, but you could do that as well. I like the little idea that it's got an edge that kind of looks a little bit like a book. That was my theory. All right, then I'm inking around, always inking in Genland. I love inking around the edges. It gives a bit of definition. It hides up those little imperfections. And now I'm just pasting that front piece down as a pocket. I have let that moulding paste dry. I did speed it up. I didn't even get my heat gun out. I just grabbed my hairdryer. It all works. So that just meant I could work with it more quickly because I was impatient. Otherwise, just obviously let it dry before you touch it. All right, so for this stick or flagpole, I am just using, it's a light cardstock and it, slightly different pattern. This one's sort of got like a blue wood pattern on it, but it's really I'm trying to speak. Sorry. It is really nice, I discovered, if the flagpole itself is nice and stiff. So that way it's very, very easy to put straight in and out. And then I just used that to measure the size of the glue that I needed to put on to stick my flagpole on. So for this one, instead of doing the actual journaling spot on the front, I did it on the back. You'll see that in a second, any second now. And what am I doing? Oh yeah, realised that it was in no way straight. So I had to trim it off again. I'm just using my board. A lot of us do that, don't we? We just line it up to the squares on the board. So there you go. There's my little flag. And obviously you could leave it like that, no problem. I didn't wait till my glue dried properly, so I had to just stick that edge down again, but that's all good. So this is the back. I thought maybe I'll use that calendar piece. Then I thought, no, it'll actually be nice with that colour contrast, that grunginess of this lovely unbleached lined paper. Well, this one's semi-bleached, I believe. I picked up a couple of lovely pads and they're really thin paper, just gorgeous. And then it's something that you can just pull down. So it kind of makes use of the lovely big long flag. It matches it. Look, I could just keep thinking of all sorts of excuses. But yeah, I love that because you can write on the front, you can write on the back. It gives you a bigger journaling spot that you didn't expect, and yet it's still nice and discreet and hidden behind the little flag. That's my theory. More washi tape because I just like this one. I just put it down. I thought it was nice to have something on the back as well. Now, I did lots of inking around this. I ended up knocking back the front of this quite a bit, and I did trim the top down just a little bit just to make it a little bit less square. So, yeah, here you go, inking. It's like watching ink dry. No? Paint dries. Now, here's a tip. I have a lot of these lovely little stickers that have the white edges. Sometimes I trim them down. Quite often, all I do is just ink around the edges, and because a lot of my stuff has that grungy, vintagey, loved feel about it, so therefore they just tend to go with a lot of my work. And I did the same to the little stamps that I had, and I did end up using one of the stamps. So this one was a bit extra shiny. What you can do if you're having trouble getting the ink onto it is you simply get a little nail file or just one of those cheap sanding blocks that you can get from the hardware store, or a little piece of sandpaper, and you give it a very light sand, and then it gives a bit of surface. All right, so it took me a little while to work out what to put on the front of the flag. You know how sometimes you just keep adding and fussing and faffing, and as you know, I add and fuss and faff quite a bit, but in the end I thought this little piece of tissue paper, I crinkled it up, I got it really nice and grungy just in front of that little backing piece between the butterfly and the little backing piece that I'm putting on top of the flag. Sounds complicated, but it's not. Just watch, you'll see. So I was going to use the plain back, but once I added the tissue, it was nice to let the dots actually peek out. It still would have been nice off centre, but I actually did centre this one. Added an almost symmetrical feel, which I'm not really into symmetry, but sometimes it works. And there was just enough asymmetry, I guess, to make it work for my head. Look at that messy desk. This is why I'm always in a mess, and I'm always having to take myself away from my desk to craft and create, because my desk gets so messy that I can't get to it, and then I want to clean it, but then I want to keep creating. And does anyone else do that? It's just this, big conflict. Anyway, I am about to move my craft space completely. I'm going to move it out into the main area, which is very exciting because then it'll be easier to get to, and I won't always have to jump over things to get there, and it'll give us a guest room, which is really lovely. Oh, gee, I had a fun time in this session. I can't tell you. I actually ended up creating the whole afternoon on this day. I thought I'd finished, and then I saw Lynn put out the prompts that she came up with for this week's challenge, this is over at the Playing with Paper and Glue Facebook group. It's so much fun over there. And I'm not just saying that because I'm one of the administrators. It is one of those groups where there's such a great bunch of people. So if you haven't joined, come along and play. But this is the challenge that Lynn, our owner, has come up with. And when she chose them this time, I had to do it straight away. I couldn't wait. I thought, I haven't used the moulding paste for a while. I can use that. And as soon as I saw flag, I had just made that little flag and I went, no, I've got to do it straight away. So off I went. So yeah, please have a go yourselves. It's really fun to see how everybody uses exactly the same prompt and yet does it in a completely different way. So yeah, why not join? Have a bit of fun and have a go yourself. This is how I did this waterfall. So I did two styles. I did this one where I did it with all the same paper. The same dimensions, the same size, and I've let them waterfall out. So I don't normally do that. I normally do them with all the same paper and just cut the edges down short, which is what I do in the second one. But yeah, this is how I did the first one. So I thought a little bit of contrast so you could really see the edges, and that's the semi-bleached lined paper and the unbleached lined paper that I picked up. That, as I said, it's so thin, so cool, loving it. Anyway, so simple, a really easy way actually to do a waterfall, and you could just do this with papers continually until you get to the top. So you can actually use those little scrappy edges of papers that we often get, and that was what made me think of this, was because I had cut down those ruled pieces and got these lovely edge bits, and so I thought, I've got to use them, and this is what I came up with. So I worked out here, you'll see in a moment, I did do a rough measurement against my board just to make sure that they were all going to fit in. So, they were about one of those little blocks, which I think is a centimetre. I think it's a metric board. Yeah, it would be. So that one that I've just pasted down there, the little date one, I did that crooked. But look, it adds to the interest, shows that it's handmade and special and lovingly created by my own hand. Paper is my love. I just love the crinkle. I love the feel. I love the sound. I love the different looks. I mean, there are so many different kinds of paper in the world. It's just amazing. I love making my own, everything paper. It's just fun. So this is the other waterfall I was talking about, where the pieces were all the same length and I just cut them down, or I only had to tear the last couple of pieces. The first three I actually already had. And on this one, I decided I'd use one of those little stapleless punch thing me bob bits, and I just don't know, it puts a little arrow in the top. It's a bit cute. Because it has a little bit of bulk, I put a really generous amount of glue on that particular one to make it work. So then I just wanted to work out how to finish the front. So I just did a bit of a decoration. I did do a lot of faffing. I finally kept it pretty simple actually, and just did a little stamp. So that's a butterfly that goes with the other butterflies. I think it was Antonio over at Antonio Makes who said, when in doubt, use a butterfly. I agree. I couldn't agree more. So I had that little, that's a page number. I love using numbers. Final little touch on the end, and voila, we are done. I really enjoyed doing this. There's the little finish piece. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Come along and play too. It's a fun challenge. It's an easy challenge. You don't have to do a big complex one like I did today. You can do it really simply. As you see, that just fits into a book page so nicely. You can have it on the inside or have it as a flap out on the edge. Just fun. You can like and subscribe below, and as always, keep creating. See you next time. Bye.